How about that intro song? How about that? That's a banger. No, we're getting an intro song. It's in the production. Welcome.
It's coming. It's coming.
Jingles, Coco. I'm covers betting analyst Josh Ingles. He's 14-year NHL pro Carlo Colaiacovo. A winning day back on Wednesday. Great call on the Habs. That was probably the most exciting Leafs game I've watched that I can remember. That was a great game.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, I don't care about what people are saying, miscues, defense, goaltending. You give me a 6-5 hockey game with that type of level of excitement where you see Austin Matthews score 3 goals, you see an overtime game, you see shootout. I'll sign up for 82 of those all year.
Just to get a point down 2 with like 3 minutes left.
Yeah. Well, it almost went to the script that we created, right? You know, Montreal probably going to be their best game. The plus 1.5 goal line, and the game probably going to overtime, because that's usually what happens with these two teams in the first early on in the season. So if you were on the overtime, which I suggested you sprinkle,
you did.
It's a very profitable night. Very profitable.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see William Karlsson over 3.5 shots at close to even money going.
William Nylander.
What'd I say?
William Karlsson.
Oh God. No.
That's okay.
No,
very simple.
No, thanks. No, thanks. Yeah. He's the 1.5. He's the 1.5 shot guy where you're just like, maybe I'll get him. And he fails more times than not. But let's get right to it. Friday slate, pal. 2 games. Let's start off Pittsburgh, Washington. And how about a little Erik Karlsson over 2.5 shots on goal, plus 110. It's always different when you see a defenseman jumping into a new team that already has like a de facto number 1 in Tanger. But he led all Pens versus Chicago in shot attempts with 8, which is a lot. He only got 2 on net. 5 were blocked. Pittsburgh, 73 shot attempts in that game. Peter Mrazek, what do you say about Peter Mrazek? I mean, the game was a letdown. We mentioned that before, but
big time letdown.
Yeah. So the question to you is, I know that Karlsson is asked to do less than he did in San Jose, but he was the lone guy on PP1. They moved Letang back to PP2. How do you see him fitting in with this offense? And shots from the point are kind of his thing, whether they get through or not. I'm happy to take quantity over quality.
Well, the good thing about Karlsson is he has such an offensive mentality, right? He's a guy that scored 100 points last year as a defenseman. When was the last time we saw that happen? And how unlikely is it that we'll see it happen again? And coming to a new team, you want to, make your mark. You want to be able to find a way to start off well and find your fit in the team. And I think a lot of what Pittsburgh is going to do offensively on defense is going to be an experiment early on, because they can't just forget that Letang was there. I know early on in their first power play, they went with 2 defensemen, and then the second power play was 1 defenseman. So regardless of what format that they use, the offense from the back end is going to be driven by Karlsson. And this guy has one mentality, knowing that, he's playing with some of the best in the league in Malkin and Crosby. He's a playmaker, but he's also a shooter. The guy can score goals. So the attempts were there last game. The one thing I've noticed early on too, and I noticed it in the Pittsburgh or the Buffalo and Ranger game yesterday. I don't know how much you watched that, but in the third period, it was a clinic what the Rangers were doing when they were blocking shots. Like the amount of shots that team blocked, and the amount of shots you're seeing a lot of teams block early on. Nashville was doing it a lot in their game yesterday too. Think that could be a little bit of the emphasis with teams right now, considering how loose they are defensively. But look, this is a rivalry game. Pittsburgh, Washington. Expect the big boys and the big players to show up, and Karlsson's one of those guys that 1 game with no points. He doesn't want to go 2 games with no points.
26 minutes he logged. That is just keep him on the ice. That's all I want. I just want counting numbers. Give me ice time, and 2.5 plus money is something I'll take there. But I like that you brought up the fact about those block shots, something to pay attention to as the blocked shot markets are starting to open for season, but they're heavily juiced sitting at 1.
Props.
I know, but the playoffs, the playoffs, Vegas was so good at just getting in front of puck. Oh, they were. Let's stay on this game. Appreciate everybody there in the chat. Joshua Smith, appreciate that. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this later, hit that like, subscribe button. Really helps us out. Second play, a healthy Haven't said that before for, I mean, it's
A
been
long
it's been a
time. It's
run.
been
It's been
almost 2
3 years.
years.
Yeah. Nick Backstrom over 0.5 points, minus 110. He was injured all last year. It's probably his worst year. Finally healthy. Now line one center with Ovi and TJ Oshie. PP1 center. Minus 110 seems quite long in that situation. You brought it up to my fact that, I mean, Ovi, 72 goals behind Wayner, and now has his center back who's healthy. How much of a difference does it make to get that full off season to get health as opposed to last year where he kind of jumped in, missed some games, wasn't really
Yeah.
that healthy?
Well, it's always more difficult to jump in the middle of the season because you're playing catch up a lot of the time, right? For players that are in mid-season form and playing at a different pace than maybe what you're used to skating at, in your rehab process. So for Backstrom, kudos to him for coming back in the season when he did, get his feet wet, give him some assurance that, with the hip feeling good and his body feeling good, that he can have a good summer of training and preparation to prepare for this season. But they clearly missed him. And, Ovi still put up 40 goals because that's what he does. But health was a big issue in Washington's, fall last season. They missed Backstrom for 3/4 of the season. They missed Wilson for a big chunk of the season. They missed John Carlson on the back end for most of the season. Now you're starting the season with all these guys healthy, and there's a lot of people not really giving Washington much love to start the season as, you're trying to pick the playoff teams. But don't tell Alex Ovechkin that, because he came out yesterday and said, I know there's going to be a lot of attention on us, or at least me, scoring goals and chasing Gretzky's record, but my main goal is to help this team make the playoffs again. And when you got Backstrom, complimenting Ovechkin, offensively on this team, it helps the both of them. Ovechkin scoring goals, Ovechkin points, and obviously Backstrom driving the offense because that's what he is. He's a playmaker.
Yeah, not going to see old Nick Backstrom taking those defensive draws in tie games late. So I do like the fact even he's not going to be a 19-minute guy. I'm happy with him at 16 and a half.
But he's going to be a PP1 guy. It's a
Exactly.
pretty lethal power play. He's going to be a top line guy playing with good players, and that's what you look at when you're trying to find props like this. You're trying to find value with guys that are going to be playing in advantageous situations, in offensive situations, and having a chance to produce because they're playing with good players.
Yeah, let's get that in, and let's not forget. Pittsburgh did give up 4 to Chicago just out of nowhere.
Crazy.
It just fell quickly. All right. Little two gamer, little 2-team parlay here. Let's go over 1.5 shot market, because who doesn't love over 1.5 shots? I absolutely love over 1.5 shots. I mean, there is some value on the under 1.5 shots with some people, but not these ones. Let's go Dawson Mercer over 1.5 shots on goal. Riley Smith over 1.5 shots on goal, plus 148. Odds courtesy of Sports Interaction. That's where we're getting this. Mercer, second line with Meyer and Heischer, PP1. Check. 7 shot attempts and 3 on goal yesterday. 1 on the power play. Check. He had 10%, more than 10% of his team shots on goal. Love it.
Yeah.
Riley Smith. Not a lot of people talking about Riley Smith jumping over. I mean, he led his team in shot attempts per 60 in the loss versus Chicago. Second line playing with Gino. Finished with 4 shots. He just sneaks in there, and we know that those wingers on Pittsburgh can really put up numbers. Obviously, like Getzel and Rust, and even like Raquel, like they get shots on net just because of how deep they are down the center. Can you get down on this over 1.5 shot on goal parlay that maybe we should bring on every game?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you'd have to think that forwards should average at least 1 shot a game, and they find a bonus shot somewhere else, right? Based on whatever, situation they find themselves in. But, I like the Pittsburgh angle here because there's probably a lot of self-reflection after that loss to Chicago, start of a new era, new management, bring in a bunch of new players. They're doing it in a very unique way where they're trying to win with an aging core. And losing the way that they did on national TV probably doesn't sit well. I mean, hockey players have a lot of pride, and their pride is knowing that, as embarrassing things may be, you have a chance to respond in your next game. So I expect that sort of response game for for Pittsburgh. Obviously with the top guys, but just with the veteran guys too. And Riley Smith fits that mold. And Dawson Mercer looked really, really good yesterday. I mean, they're for PP1
potential 30-goal scorer, right?
Right, and he's playing on the third line right now, right? I know he's getting second PP time, but if you saw the way their power play operated in last night's game against Detroit, PP1 couldn't really get it together, and PP2 was getting a lot of extra PP time, so that just helps bode well for Mercer and this shot and goal parlay.
It is funny listening to you say PP time. Getting a lot of that PP time. Yeah, with a serious face.
You're
with a
so
serious
immature.
Face.
You're so immature.
Yeah, happy Monster Day, by the way. Favorite monster of all time? Who's your favorite monster?
Ooh. That's a good one. The Cookie Monster.
Oh God, yeah. Speaking of maturity, nice one. Speaking of maturity. All right. Speaking of a lack of maturity, let's talk about the Yotes, bud. You mentioned, I believe, you mentioned on Wednesday that kind of more of a level playing field at the start of the season. And now New Jersey played last night. Arizona's in New Jersey. A bit of a letdown spot. New Jersey didn't look great versus Detroit last night. They were outshot in 2 of the 3 periods. That was a game that was tied.
They had timely goals.
Exactly. Tied with less than 5 minutes. There wasn't a ton to like about it, but I mean, Jack Hughes did what Jack Hughes does. But are we seeing a little value on Arizona? Are they still being valued as the team that they were last year when maybe some new additions and some new blood are making this team better? It's tough for them to be valued any lower than they were last year.
Yeah, it really is. But I see a lot of value in Arizona. I think they're a team that a lot of people are overlooking just because of all the off-ice nonsense that they have to deal with, where they operate like a OHL team instead of an NHL team. And, it's their first game of the season. They're catching New Jersey off of a back-to-back where, in New Jersey, the crowd was buzzing yesterday. There was a lot of adrenaline that went into that game. And I just feel like this could be a trap game for New Jersey where it could be a letdown because they're not going to meet the same level of intensity or the same level of energy that Arizona is going to bring. And Arizona's got some really, really good offensive players. They also have a goaltender that can steal a game. I mean, Vejmelka, when he's at the top of his game, you've seen it. He's beat some of the best teams and some of the best players in the game. I'm very high on Akira Schmid, the goaltender that we're probably going to see in net tonight for New Jersey. So maybe low scoring. We might see a low scoring affair here. But I also, like the underdog factor here. And so you can maybe sprinkle a little bit on the money line because it does provide value. But plus a goal and a half for Arizona for a team that could easily win the game, but also keep it close because this is their first of the game of the season. And they're probably going to have more energy than most of the players on New Jersey tonight.
So Arizona plus 1.5 minus 110 in the books too. Just looking at that, I'm seeing I'm at Sports Interaction here looking at the total 6.5 even money to the under.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, can you see 7 goals be scored with a Schmid and Vejmelka? I know the names don't really
I'm not
make
paying,
it attractive.
I'm not paying 20 points of juice to do it. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, if Arizona is going to be a competitive team, and I think they've bought into that mentality of being more competitive this year because they haven't made the usual moves that you're used to seeing them make where they just acquire salary to get up to the cap floor and they're bringing up younger guys. Like they signed some good players. I mean, Jason Zucker signed on a 1-year deal. Matthew Dumba signed on a 1-year deal. They got Logan Cooley coming out of college.
Alex Kerfoot.
Well, Kerfoot's there. Great. Leaf fans are going to love the fact you brought that up. But, Barrett Hayton and Clayton Keller, who had a breakout year last year, like they've got some good players there. And I think they'll keep it competitive this year.
It's not the worst third line. I just brought up their line. Not the worst third line. There's your buddy Maselli on the wing, Nick Bukestad, who's a big veteran, and Lawson Krause on the other wing. It's not a terrible third line.
There you go.
Yeah. Fourth line, something to be desired. But, I mean,
Coyotes,
Zucker Cooley Kerfoot is a lot better than what they had last year at the second line. And Barrett Hayton, couldn't find any props on him, but he's basically centering that line with Keller and Schmaltz and does the PP1. And we kept hitting him last year. And, like, it was a line that produced. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can get some Hayton props out. But like
Yeah.
you said, maybe this team's being slightly undervalued. New Jersey coming off that game. Let's take Arizona plus 1.5, minus 110, leaning on that under 6.5 too. Friday, 2 games, but that's it. We got some plays. We got Erik Karlsson over 2.5 shots on goal for plus money. Then Nick Backstrom over 0.5 points, minus 110. Then a little 2-teamer here. Dawson Mercer over 1.5 shots with Riley Smith over 1.5 shots. Mercer's in New Jersey. Riley Smith's in Pittsburgh. That's plus 148. And Arizona plus a goal and a half, minus 110 to lock it up. Games at 7, games at 7:30. We got some stagger time. That's important. Nothing late, but big slate tomorrow. You'll be anchoring the show tomorrow with the man Jared. I will be the tailgaters. The tailgaters have their baseball party. So
where are you going? Oh, for your softball league.
Yeah, competitive softball. A competitive softball league. Nice. Yeah, but hopefully some winners there. Maybe buy a couple rounds for the boys with some Nick Backstrom money. How about that?
Let's do it. 100%.
All right.
Sure.
But that's where we are today. Those who plays in, we're locked in. I'm Josh Ingles. He's Carlo Colaiacovo. This is Covers as Puck Props, brought to you by Sports Interaction. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Ciao.